Well, hello. I am Matt Williamson. How's everyone doing today? And here's what's going on. Latest news on Ayuk? No news, So holding pattern there. I very much am under the understanding that he probably will be a Steeler. But the Niners are kind of waiting to do two trades. They want to add a player of some sort, preferably a receiver. I also think D-line and O-line would interest them, but I think the Steelers are going to send the Niners picks, and then the Niners are then going to make deal number 2 with some other team for a wideout. Devontae Adams, I don't know. They can do whatever they want. But I don't think San Francisco wants to pull the trigger on deal 1 with the Steelers until they have deal 2 in place. So that's the way I am, dealing with that. We're in a holding pattern there, of course. But I am here to talk to you about what to look for in the first preseason game of the year. I will be there. I'm excited about it. Thursday was a walkthrough. Friday is game. Saturday, they're off. So I'm going to be home Friday, Saturday, come back here Sunday morning. Easy like Sunday morning. So things to watch. It does sound like, I told you yesterday, there's 7 or 8 Steelers that aren't going to play with the ones. You get the impression that the Texans will play their guys to some degree. But either way, they're going to play some starters, if not all, for a short stretch. And I think all those 1v1 reps are really, really important. They're the most scrutinized. I think we should watch those over and over. But remember, these teams are not trying to scheme to beat the other. They're doing things like, if the Texans are an 11 personnel, these are the guys we're trotting out there with nickel or dime or whatever. They're not going to be like, make adjustments at the line just for Texan specific stuff. So just watch 1v1 matchups, like Texans left tackle versus the Steelers right edge guy, corners. If Porter gets his hands on Diggs at all, or Nico, or, just watch them in a vacuum, I think is the best way to do that. Maybe what I'm most interested in this game is special teams. And everyone's going to be raving. We got a full slate of games this weekend. And everyone's going to be talking about, look at the kickoff rules. And I am going to watch as many kickoffs as I can from all games, no doubt. However, I get the impression these special teams coaches don't want to put their tricks on tape. They just want to practice the basics of this kickoff rule, no wrinkles whatsoever. However, for the Steelers specifically, why I'm bringing up special teams before offense or defense is I want you to watch this punter. Johnston is a weapon, and who knows what kind of opportunities he gets in this game. He's the only punter on the roster, and he is really impressive. So just really don't go get a beer during punt team or anything like that. Along those lines, I've been telling you guys this for years. A really good indicator of core special teamers, guys that have a really good chance to make the team, is see the starting 11 on punt team. It's the most diverse, complex, most difficult phase of special teams, in my opinion. So you have to put your best guys there, even in the preseason. You don't want your punter getting killed. You don't block punts. There's a lot of things going on there. So I always say that every special, when every preseason opens, I always tell Steeler fans, pay attention to the starting 11 on punt team. But this year, also really pause your TV, look at, even jot down the numbers. This is what we do on starting kickoff and starting kickoff return team. And there might be 4 or 5 names that are on both, but I think the guys on those 3 units have a massive advantage over in terms of being the special teams guys that Danny Smith's going to need for the regular season. BetOnline is your number 1 source for our summer sports this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, and many more. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I kind of want to go position by position here. Just a few things to highlight on all, kind of a rapid fire situation. We know Russell Wilson isn't going to play. Great. From my understanding, they're counting on Fields just for a couple series. I disagree with that. And maybe once we get in game, we see more. I mean, if it's a 3 and out or, 10 plays they're talking about, I wish we could get him for a half, behind a good line, something along those lines, and see him rip up a second team defense and look like an awesome backup, if not a true starter, and really see him use his legs and break tackles when people are trying to actually bring the quarterback to the ground. That'll come at some point this preseason, but I would love to see it this, just as a fan, as an analyst, I would love to see that against the Texans. I also think Allen is somebody that is not just a throwaway. I think you need to pay attention to him as a 3, that I think he'll be playing most of his reps behind a pretty decent offensive line. We'll get to that in a minute. And I think he should look like a pro. I think he should get the guys in and out of the huddle. A lot of rookies he's going to be playing with, a lot of backups. But he should be able to orchestrate the team, get them where they need to be, look like he knows where to go with the football, be decisive. He's also a better athlete than you might know if you've never watched him. So he will run a little. I mean, he's not Allen. He's probably below Wilson as well. But pay attention to him. I mean, I bet he looks the part. Mentioned the O-line. Fautanu, I think, is going to start at right tackle and probably play a lot. I think he'll basically be the starter and backup there. I'm just guessing they'll play him a ton. I also think you'll see a lot of Frazier, maybe deep into this game. That's just a hunch. That's a hope. I mean, I think he's playing well, but he is not unseated Herbig. It will be interesting if Jones is not a starter for this game, but as I told you yesterday, don't overreact if that's the case. I expect it to be Dan Moore at the left tackle spot. But as mentioned, there's 2, even with Isaac Seumalo out. I mean, these other guards will play a lot. There are 2 quality 5-man offensive lines on this team right now. So I will be a little disheartened if the second O-line is playing deep into this game, late third quarter, and they're not bullying backups for the Texans. I mean, especially in the run game. Speaking of the run game, I think we'll see very little of Najee and Warren. But it'd be nice when they're out there to see them run through some decent holes and break off some big runs with some attitude. I mean, the attitude has certainly followed them. It's the word to mention with these 2 in camp. But that opens a great door for a bevy of others. P. Ryan, who can really grab that. I think that there isn't a roster spot available for these remaining backs, especially with Cordarrelle Patterson looming. But if one of them can stand out, that might be your practice squad guy. And, knock on wood, Najee or Warren or Patterson gets hurt, which is probably inevitable. I mean, at that position, that he's an easy call up in week 10 for a week or something along those lines. And down the line, if one of those running backs starts to really stand out from the pack, do they start using them more on special teams? Because you make a tackle on kickoff or punt coverage or something like that. Those are the type of things that get you on the team and, assure you a spot or really make a strong statement. I'm sure we'll see Pickens a little. Okay. But I'm expecting Van Jefferson to clearly be the best of the remaining receivers. The most professional, sharpest route runner, blocker. He's a good blocker. He's fun to watch blocking. All the above. I mean, he's not going to look like Randy Moss out there. And he's not going to remind you of AB or anything. But think of him as a solid NFL receiver that you can play with. The rest of the group, to me, is a lot like the running backs we just talked about, that they're more accomplished, but can Miller or Austin look better than the others? That's kind of what I'm looking for from those receivers. Like, is 1 or 2 of them Allen or Fields' go-to guys late in the game because they're just consistently getting open against backup defensive backs? That's what I'm hoping for. There also is a lot of big playability with that receiving core. There's speed, Steelers are starting to run the ball well in the second half. Does one of these guys get behind the defense for a long bomb? I think that's very possible. Don't have a ton to look at, again, with the total defensive line situation. But could there be a depth guy that isn't getting any buzz now that starts to get buzz? I think Fehoko is a guy that should be really good in a game like this because he's been around the block. He's hard to block. He just doesn't offer much of a pass rush. But when he's in there, I expect him to win a lot. I'd like to see Loudermilk assert himself, I guess is the best way to say it. But really the guy for me to watch is Leal. I think Leal's had a really good camp. Can he dominate's a big word. People throw that around too much. But can he dominate versus twos? Can he hold his own and make plays versus ones? Like late in the game, I mean, if he's in there in the third quarter, is he one of the best players on the field? I think that's very possible, and I think that's almost my expectations for him at this point. On the edge, you're not going to have either one of the starters, of course. Herbig, kind of along those lines. If he plays, does he look like a starter? You know, I mean, if he happens to go against Tunsil or, you know, I don't think if Tunsil even plays, he's a star. But even early in the game, is Herbig getting pressures against whatever O-line the Texans start? Moon is a guy that I think has a chance to make this team, maybe a 33% chance, but he could help his cause. And a name to throw out there that pops up here and there for me just watching practice is Jacoby Windman. So if late in you're watching this game in the fourth quarter and Windman has a sack or makes a big play, strip, something like that, just remember him. I mean, he's been flashing here and there. Peyton Wilson has done much more than flashing. Part of me thinks he may have 100 tackles in this game and just be a dominant player and green dot it and get everybody going. Part of me thinks they may not even need to see it, that he plays a quarter and then they get him out of there. You know what I mean? Which is probably even a better sign. So my expectations are through the roof with this guy if either one of those scenarios happens. And I kind of expect it, but I think you'll see him early. But if he's awesome, let's just get him out of the game because we need him for week one. I think that's a possibility. Lastly, let's talk about the secondary. I always lump Trice and Rush together, and I think rightfully so. I think both will play a lot. And this is more of an all-22 thing, but when you isolate them against a really deep group of Texans receivers, I mean, even if Nico and Dell and Diggs don't play, they have other guys that are going to be NFL players that I would like to see Trice and Rush hold their own. I hope the Steelers play more man coverage than usual just to better analyze these guys. Man coverage snaps are a lot better way of judging corners, especially these two guys with their length. And my last guy is Ryan Watts, who I'm starting to warm up to more and more. I think his special team role is growing. They list him as a safety. I assume he'll mostly play safety, but maybe he'll be some big slot. I want to really see his true usage in a game. And my hunch is with Watts, he might make a mistake here and there. He might not take an angle that you love, but I bet he arrives with good authority and can run, and you'll see size, speed, traits. I mean, I look at this guy like a ball of clay that kind of like Spencer Anderson last year that people aren't talking about on draft day or leading up to camp. But if developed properly, this time next year, we might be like, he's a real asset to this team. So this would be step one for you guys to see him. And I hope he plays a ton. I assume he will. All right. So again, we're kind of on call on this Ayuk situation. It's making me a little crazy. I'm sure it's making you a little crazy, but we got football coming up. So try to get this to you in ample time to preview this game. All right. Take care.